Hello student, this is your environment and ecology class and we are going to discuss. Here there are so many topics related to environment and ecology. You know, ecology, the scientific study of interaction and among between organism and their environment. We have discussed already these issues. You know, environment consists of the sum total of the stimulation that the individual receive from the nature until death. From birth till death, what we are receiving from the nature, this is all discourse called environment. It covers all those circumstances which asserts their influence on the individual. Okay, you can say a person's environment consists of the sum total of the stimulation which he received from his conception until his death. So environment consists different types of forces like number one, physical, intellectual, social, moral, economic, political, cultural and emotional forces. But here I am going to concentrate on this syllabus. It is entirely dealing with the force like physical force or the natural force. It contain 3-4 major aspects. Number one, species. Number two, the population. And then community. Then ecosystem. Then biome. And then biosphere. This is, you can say, hierarchy. The smaller unit is a single individual species, like any insect, any bird, any human being, but a group of that particular species called population. And when this population, the population of this type of species connected with other living things, it created community. And when this community deals with the natural things like neighboring water bodies, land, forest and mountains, it created ecosystem. Group of ecosystem that share similar climates and typical organism called biome. And all life on earth and all parts of earth in which life exists, this is called biosphere. So as far as the definition of environment is concerned, it has huge range. Environment is aggregate of all external forces, influences and conditions which affect the life, number one, nature, number two, behavior and the growth of, you can say, an individual, a species or any community or population. Clear? Now, switch to second slide, components of ecosystem. There are two types of factors. Number one, biotic factors, and the second, abiotic factor. Any living parts of environment, an environment with which an organism might interact, like animal, plants, you know, mushroom, bacteria, or any other living things, birds. And the second one is abiotic factors. Biotic or abiotic, these two factors are very, very crucial in the functioning of or in the study of environment, because environment is composed of biotic, biological, and abiotic, physical components. Thus, educational process of environmental studies occurs in physical, social, cultural, and psychological environment. Here, physical components or abiotic components contain land, air, water. From air, geology is related to air. Okay, then climatology or climate, and biotic components, plants, animal, man, and his functions. And in this concern, we study, as far as plants is concerned, you studied botany, and in the context of animal, we study zoology. And the man and other and the related things like human behavior and the human development, we study humanities. So all the things are related to environmental discourse. In this environmental discourse, as far as energy or food production is concerned, there are two types of species or factors. Number one, the main energy, the source of the earth is only the sun. Sun gives energy to earth or the other planets of solar system. But here, all the plants consume or take charge energy from the sun. That is called autotrophs. Organisms that capture energy from sunlight, you can say lichen, you can say any plant, any tree, they converted this sunlight into energy, and they produce energy by own functioning. They are not dependent on any other species or any other living thing or non-living thing. That's why these plants, these species considered as producer, because they make their own food. Clear? So here there are different types of layer in the producer as well. The first producer of energy, rich compounds that are later used by other organisms. Autotrophs are primary producers. Most engage in process of photosynthesis and chemosynthesis. These are two factors and two processes or two systems. Photosynthesis, when plants converted this heat or sunlight into energy, and by chemosynthesis plants transform chemical object into the energy. And the second aspect of food chain process is consumers. Who are the consumer? We are the consumers. Birds are the consumers. Animals are the consumers. These consumers are considered or known as heterotrophs in the language or terminology of environmental science. Heterotrophs can make their own food, acquire energy from other organisms by ingesting them, like consumers, organisms that rely on the other organism for energy and nutrition. Like plants are producers and animal like goat. Goat eat these plants like grass, grass. And human being eat mutton. Okay, so human beings are the consumer. Secondary consumer or primary consumers are this goat. There are 2-3 types of consumers. Carnivores kill and eat, they eat meat like loin. Scavenger consume and carcasses of dead animal. Decomposers chemically break down organic matters like fungi, etc. Herbivores eat plants. Omnivores diet include both plant and animal like human beings. And detrivores feed on detritus, small pieces of decay matter, by grinding them into the smaller pieces, like earthworm and snails are example of this type of detrivores. Often digest the decomposer living on the detritus. Now we are going to examine what is the flow of energy in this ecosystem. This energy flow is gradually reduced by a chain system, like the energy of sunlight consumed by plants like algae, for example, 100 calorie. Then these algae, which is consumed by a fish, small fish, but the energy of this consumption created only 10% of the entire total energy, and this chain continue to the upper layer of consumers, and this small fish is eaten by the big one, and now the entire energy reduced by 90%. It means only 10% energy consumed by this bigger fish, and continuously they are also eaten by some birds like vulture and other things, and this chain is continued and energy reduced by appropriate share. Clear? This is the flow of energy you can examine food web. You can say this is food web, network of feeding, interaction involving multiple producers, herbivores, producers and consumers. Here are a broad idea of the energy chain system. This is frog and this is crocodile. This one is small insect, and these are the plants consumed by first primary or primary consumers, and they are eaten by the secondary consumers and these things. So the level of energy always reduced by an appropriate percentage. Now, the trophics level. What is trophics level? Each step in food chain or food web, primary producers are always the first level and consumer occupy the other level. Clear? What we are discussing? Primary sources. The primary producers are always first level because they consume bigger amount of energy. They produce bigger amount of energy. Trophics levels are illustrated by drawing ecological pyramids. This is the ecological pyramid. Here is the heat, here is the sunlight. Here is the sunlight, here is the sun, and here is the sunlight. The portion of sunlight energy is this. It is very, very great or large, and huge number of energy is created by the plants by the action of photosynthesis or chemiosynthesis. And the energy what they consume, the primary producers transform this energy, which by the process of consuming process of the first level of consumer, they consume primary producers, and only 10%, I have earlier told you 90% reduction of this energy level occurred because most of energy was, you can say, it's a natural process. Most of energy destroyed by the first or the primary level consumer, and continuously this process carry on the second level and the third level and the third level. It means the energy of for example 100 calorie, you may see the top level of consumer or the last consumer consumed only 0.1% of the energy of sunlight heat or the sunlight rays, or the energy, you can say, what is generated by the sunlight or the sun. This is food pyramid. This called energy of pyramid of energy. Show relative amount of energy available at each tropics level. On average, only 10% of energy available in one tropic level. This is, all process depend on the system of energy transfer. I think now this point is clear to you. Now, a term biomass, the total amount of living tissues within a given tropic level. Pyramid of biomes illustrated the relative amount of living organic matter in each trophic level of an ecosystem. And the pyramid of number shows relative numbers of individual organisms at each trophic level of an ecosystem. Suppose when we are talking about a particular ecosystem, there is a different type of energy pyramids are existing in a particular ecosystem. When we are, for example, we are taking a example of grass, insect, okay, hen, okay, human beings. and human being uh, uh, is not last consumer. You can say the decomposer, when human being collapse or died, most of human beings funeral in a grave, and most of decomposed by different bacteria, fungi. So last consumer are these types of bacteria and fungi. Decomposer, you can say decomposer. So this is a particular type of energy pyramid. Now the cycle of matters, we are talking about most living organisms are made of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur and phosphorus. These make up life important compounds like water, carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids and proteins. We all are aware of these elements of nature. Matter is recycled within and between ecosystem. Suppose biological chemical cycle number 1 is loops through which elements pass as they are recycled in ecosystem. You know, energy always existed and this is recycled in a particular ecosystem. Nutrients need by organism to build tissues and carry out life functions pass through organism and environment through biogeochemical cycles. These nutrients converted into energy. This is, this is the cycle of, for example, water. Here is, what is the main source of water? Oceans, oceans, river. Evaporation occurred and then clouds are created, and by the rain, once again this water rained over the earth and flow through the rivers and all the rivers are dumped in the oceans. Once again this process recycled, and this is called water cycle. When H2O transform in hydrogen and oxygen, these are the two main components of the water, transform from liquid form to solid form and the gas form. This transformation or this chain of actions called water cycle. Now the carbon cycle is this is carbon cycle. This is the picture of nitrogen cycle. Carbon cycle is not very clear to us because the picture is not very clearly visible to me. Now, another example is nitrogen cycle. N2 gas is turned into fertilizer and applied to crops. Excess may wash into rivers, streams, and the ocean as runoff. Okay. Bacteria fix N2 gas and some N2 gases is fixed by lighting, some bacteria fixed nitrogen, some bacteria release nitrogen, and some green crops or algae also produce nitrogen, and some living creatures of water bodies also created nitrogen, and in this nitrogen transform from one place to another place, and the link between earth and the water bodies is related to the nitrogen cycle. Process where bacteria living in soil or on the roots of legumes convert nitrogen in gas into ammonia. This is the cycle of phosphorus, and this is the cycle of oxygen. And okay, so one very important thing I would like to share with you. The question raised in my mind, why you are going to study environment, or why environmental education is important, why you have to study phosphorus cycle, nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle, water cycle, ecosystem, energy pyramid, ecological pyramids, trophics, biosphere, ecosystem, consumers, producers, all the natural things. Why? So the answer is, the main objective of this education system, environmental education, are to develop a world population that is aware of and concerned about total environment and its related problems, and commitment to work individually and collectively, both towards solutions to the current problems related to environment and the prevention of new ones. When we are aware or awareness, acquire an awareness of and a sensitivity to the total environment and its allied problems, and we have to gain knowledge from these lectures or these syllabuses. So this is our responsibility as individual, and the responsibility of community to save environment, protect environment, and discuss the problems related to environment and ecology, and provide the solution to these problems. Okay, I think that's all for today's lecture. We will see you in the next lecture, where I will discuss some other aspects of environment and ecology. Thank you so much. Welcome students. This is your environment and ecology class, and today's topic is various components of environment in ecology. This is associated with the second unit of your syllabus. Let's start. As you know, in the earlier lectures, in the first unit, I have point outed some major elements and aspects of ecosystem. Once again, I would like to introduce first of all what is the ecology. Ecology is the scientific study of interaction among organisms and between organisms and their environment. For example, the relationship of me or you can say human being with the environment, with the nature. What is the relationship between human beings and plants? What is the relationship between human beings and animals? Mammals. What is the relationship between human beings and insects? And human beings and fish and other uh, other living things. So first, and the second aspect is this relationship is the relationship between human beings and the earth, the land, the grass, the water, rocks, oceans. Okay, so basically ecology is a scientific study of interactions among organisms and between organism and their environment. So there are some very important points. This is the definition of ecology, the scientific study of interaction between different organisms and between organism and their environment or their surrounding. And there are two types of surroundings. Number one, biotic, and second one is abiotic. Biotic means living factors that influence an ecosystems. For example, human beings, animals, birds, insects, plants, these are living things. Means biotic things. This is the picture of biotic components. The biotic components of grassland ecosystem are living organisms that exist in ecosystems. For example, these insects, birds, rat, some other living things like plants. There are some points you have to keep in your mind. First, number one, 70% of all animals are beetles. Cockroaches can live weeks without their head, and their heads can stay alive without their bodies. 70% of the world's fresh water is stored in Antarctica ice. Antarctica is a continent which is covered by ice around the year, and there is, you can say, no population. Homeowners use up to 10 times more toxic chemicals per acre than farmers. Means someone who live in a locality or urbanized area inhale more toxic elements comparatively of a farmer, a cultivator who is working in a farming land. I would like to explain very important relationship between this type of organism. Like this is a, you can say, hierarchy, or this is a system of ecology. First of all, species, and especially she is created a population. Suppose a single rat create huge number of rats, a man created large number of population of human beings. Then this population converted into the community, and after that, community converted in a ecosystem. Suppose community means a human being, a species, then population, and the attachment with other living things, like human beings live in a village and they owned some cattle, they planted some animals, some trees, and they cultivated and created a farming land. They planted an orchard. This is means create a community. All these living things work and depends on each other, and then community converted in an ecosystem, and then ecosystems converted into biome, and then biome converted in biosphere. This is the relationship between different organism of a ecosystem. This is a plant, a tree. This is water body. This is land. These are the grass, birds. Rat. You can imagine here animal, insects. This is now abiotic, non-living factors that influence an ecosystem, like sunlight, like rain. What is biome? First of all, you have to know biome or biosphere. Biosphere is a huge discourse of different ecosystems, which is why we usually study smaller division like biome and ecosystem. This is large. This in a large land or large area, you can say a particular locality or particular region, you can say biosphere. Ecosystem is very easy to study, or biome can be subdivided into a smaller division called ecosystem. So biosphere contain so many biomes, and biomes contain so many ecosystems. So ecosystem is a smaller unit. What is biome? Well, biomes are environments that have characteristics, climax, communities, don't change too much over time. Number one. Some people think that there are over 30 different types of biomes in the world. Number one, you can say, but I would like to dictate you. Number one, aquatic biomes like rivers, streams, lakes, deep sea zone hai, sea, canal, oceans. These are aquatic biome. And second one is terrestrial biome. Terrestrial means tundra, grassland, taiga, tropical, temperate, rainforest, desert, deciduous forest. These are terrestrial biome. And how these ecological methods work. Ecosystem works on some certain laws. Okay, laws, you can say these laws are created by nature. Suppose plants, trees, these are the producers. They produce energy. They provide food to entire, or you can say all the components of a particular biome or biosphere or ecosystem. How they created their own food, the system of photosynthesis. Sunlight is the main source of energy for living things, and these plants created their food and get energy from the sunlight by the process of photosynthesis, and provide oxygen to the animals and human beings, and provide foods also. That's why these plants and trees called autotrophs use light or chemical energy to make food. Plants like protists, algae, bacteria. This is the process of photosynthesis. Use light energy to convert carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and carbohydrates. Remember, this is the equation. 6CO2 means carbon dioxide plus 6H2O means water. Under the influence of light or sunlight, it converted into 6O2 means oxygen plus C6H12O6. This is, what is this? This is C, carbon 6, H12 and O6. This is the food of, or you can say energy, carbohydrates. What is carbohydrates? Glucose. This is the formula of glucose. Now, it's a picture of a leaf. Sunlight dropped on the leaf. Then carbon dioxide, water produce glucose and oxygen. Now, second thing is chemiosynthesis performed by bacteria use chemical energy to produce carbohydrates. Now, second one is consumer. Second one is consumer. Organisms that rely on other organisms for their energy and foods supply, they are known as heterotrophs or consumers, or in Hindi upbhokta. Like human beings, like animals entirely depends on plants, trees, grass for their food. And human beings are second layer consumer, or you can say heterotrophs. They are completely dependent on plants, vegetables, fruits, and they are also dependent on animals. You can say animals are heterotrophs, but in the context of human beings, they become first line producers because they provide milk, meat, and other things to the human beings. Herbivores obtain energy by eating only plants, shakahari, vegetables, and herbivores eating only plants, and carnivores, animal like lion, depends on animals. Omnivores eat both plants and animals, and human beings considered as omnivores. These are the decomposers, breaks down dead organic matters like fungi, feeding interaction. Energy flow through a ecosystem is one direction from the sun and inorganic compound to autotrophs producers and then to heterotrophs consumers. So the ecosystem is a combination of an area, abiotic and biotic. These points are very, very clear, I think. Uh, what is the composition of biotic? Biotic means plants and living things. And abiotic components are air, water, rainfall, temperature, soil, rocks, elevation, humidity. These are abiotic components of our ecosystem. For example, where we live, the temperature of the earth, the temperature of the weather, the moisture, air, rainfall, the soil, the rocks, mountains, oceans, lakes. These are the components, these components called abiotic components of a ecosystem. And the animals, human beings, and grassland, and insects, birds, these are biotic components. Clear? So this is the relationship, all about the relationship between all the components of a particular ecosystem. And this relation is, depends on food process and the food chain. Food chain series of steps in which organisms transfer energy by eating and being eaten. All the energy that comes to earth comes from the sunlight. So sun is the basic, the core source of energy. And from the process of photosynthesis or chemiosynthesis, this sunlight converted in energy by plants, trees, and bacteria, and they produce the food for the other living things like human beings and the animals, insects, birds. The process has to start with some kinds of plant doing photosynthesis. From there, herbivores eat the plant and the carnivores eat the herbivores. It is a simple interaction that passes energy up the food chain. I think now it will clear. In the absence of light, organism can use chemical energy to produce carbohydrates, which is called chemiosynthesis. This is in the case of bacteria, or you can say in the deep oceans, where the living things of deep oceans cannot get proper sunlight, and there they produce or generate their carbohydrates through the chemical energy. Now I would like to clarify some terms and define some important terms related to ecosystem. Like biomass, number 1, refers to the total mass of living plants, animals, fungi, bacteria in a particular area. Energy flow, what is energy flow? The flow of energy from an ecosystem to an organism and from organism to another organism. Like this is the food chain, a food flow. Ecosystem to an organism. To keep in your mind, only plants are only the elements or the component of an ecosystem who produce their energy by or through the process of photosynthesis. And the consumers we all know who are the consumers. Now, this is the energy flow. Start with producer and end with top consumers. This is the energy flow. Number one is grass. You can say, what is grass? Grass is a plant. एक पौधा है ये. Clear? And this grass, this grass produce their energy through the photosynthesis under the the influence or the with the effect of sunlight. This is, you can say, this is sun, and sun rays dropped on the leaf of a grass, and by the process of photosynthesis they converted this heat energy into carbohydrate and oxygen. Clear? Means they converted this energy by the help of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is another biological element. You can say it's a type of biological element who help in the conversion of heat into the energy into the oxygen and glucose. And these plants contain this energy in a form of starch, and the roots of grass or other plants extracted water from the earth. That's why they become producer and provide food and the oxygen to entire biosphere or entire ecosystem. Then, the cockroach, cricket, the other insects who eat this grass, these are consumer, and this one is the first category consumer. And these first category consumers are eaten by the second category consumer, you can say frog. In case of this flow, and the second category consumer sometimes consumed by the third category consumer, you can say raccoon or other animal. Or this flow is very, very natural, but can be differ in other cases. For example, in the context of human beings, a deer or a goat eat grass and plants. Goat is a first category consumer, and goat is eaten by human beings. Clear? So this can be, you can say, this is a wave. You can say food wave. A food wave links all the food chains in an ecosystem together, showing a more holistic view of energy transfer in a ecosystem. Each step in a food chain or a food wave is trophic level. As you increase trophic level, the amount of energy decreases. And now a question raise in your mind, why do this happens? For example, the energy amount of sunlight is 100 gram or 100%. For example, here is a sun. So plants consume this energy and convert 90% in energy. Okay. Then this 90% consumed by mice or rat, but they produce only 10% energy. And when they consumed by another, and ratio of energy consecutively declined or decrease, it will create a type of ecological pyramid. Pyramids can come in energy as we have seen, or they can come in a biomass pyramid or a pyramids of number. This is food web network. These are the question, very important. This is pyramid. The producer, this structure convert into, it's a type of pyramid. Producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, or tertiary consumer. This is food pyramid. What I am talking about. Level 1 producer, level 2 primary consumer herbivores, secondary level, and fourth level. This is food web. These are very, very interesting pictures, and this is my suggestion to all of you. Please note down these charts or flows in your notebook, because these are very important, and the questions of your examination can be selected from each here. Like you have to give to select any of them as herbivorous, carnivorous, or first primary consumer, or secondary consumer, or third level consumer. A diagram that shows the relative amount of energy or organism contained which each topic level of a food or a food chain or food web, that is energy pyramid. This is ecological pyramid. 100% energy from primary producer, and then the energy reduced by only 10%, and then 1% and 0.1%. This is the structure of food pyramid. This is the structure of food pyramid. I think these components or these aspects of ecological factors are now very, very much clear to you, and I think time is over now, and I would like to introduce some other aspects of ecosystem in the next lecture. And thank you for today's lecture. Thank you, and I hope I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you so much.